Welcome to Lecture 3 on Cognition. I'm sorry the previous lecture ended so abruptly. So now we're going to talk about one of the ways that we process and organize information. So we use what are called schemas. And schemas are cognitive structures that help us perceive, organize, and process information. So I think of schemas like a file cabinet. And we're continually changing our schemas throughout the lifespan. So initially, we have pretty basic schemas. And I just think about an individual schema as like a file folder. So let's say you're a little kid and you're learning what kind of animals are pets. So you develop a folder for pets. And in there, at first you might have cats and dogs and maybe goldfish and, hamsters and guinea pigs. But it's still a pretty basic file. And as you get older, your definition of a pet gets bigger and bigger. So your schema has to grow. And so whenever you're looking at animals and you're trying to categorize animals, you might categorize them by, are they a pet or not a pet? That could be one of your schema rules. So, knowledge of how to behave in different settings relies on schemas. Schemas aren't just about objects. We don't just categorize objects. We also categorize events and behaviors. So, how you behave in a library versus at a party, these are going to be very different. And you have schemas for different types of events. Now, a script is a type of schema that directs behavior over time within a situation. So a script is about situations. It's a type of schema. And schemas and scripts are adaptive in that they enable us to make quick judgments with little effort. So all day long we're running into, objects, things, people, and our brain has to categorize information so that we can manipulate that information as needed. And schemas and scripts can help us be fast, which can lead to some cognitive errors, but usually they're a really helpful way to categorize information and then access that information to use in that when you go to a new situation like the library. You reach into your script, you reach into the schema with the script, and you know how to behave in the library. Now, schemas and scripts can lead us to think and act in stereotypical ways. So a stereotype is a cognitive schema, and these allow for easy and fast processing of information about people based on their membership in certain groups. So I think when we think of the word stereotype, we tend to think of things like racism, sexism, ageism. A stereotype is really any type of category for human membership, or also animal group membership. So it's not necessarily, it's not, when I use the word stereotype and when I'm talking about schemas, we're just looking at, okay, our schemas do lead us to create stereotypes of different groups of people based on their group membership. But then going from that, we would have to jump into social psychology and all that stuff. So stereotyping is a type of schema, but it can be one of those errors where we make a cognitive error. We're trying to process information so quickly, and then we reach into a schema that has formed this stereotype, and we forget to look at the individual rather than their group membership. Now, gender roles are prescribed behaviors for females and males and represent a type of schema that operates on an unconscious level. And really, our schemas are on an unconscious level. We can bring them into conscious awareness. when we make the decision to think about that. So right now I just brought up gender roles. We're able to pull up what we usually use on an unconscious level to just discuss or describe gender roles. And the schemas and scripts that children learn are likely to affect their behavior when they are older. Our schemas and scripts matter. So we spend a lot of our life developing schemas and developing scripts and expanding these. But sometimes we have to go through and kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Trim some of our schema, because we realize they're leading to cognitive errors rather than being helpful. Now, schemas are based on our real life experiences. So that question, is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable? Well, that kind of question is not so much based on real life experiences. It's more of a just, what's the definition of a vegetable versus a fruit? But our schemas, especially our scripts, are based on our real life experiences. And so scripts are schemas that allow us to infer about the sequence of events in a given context. I consider scripts to be a little more, a more elaborate type of schema, because you're having other people are part of that event, and so you're having to process social information in addition to just the basic layout of this social situation requires X, Y, and Z. And so that's where scripts and schemas, they can be helpful, but sometimes they can be problematic. And I think looking at gender roles, I think looking at race, looking at ageism, any of the isms, scripts and schemas can be very problematic. So schemas and scripts are dictated by culture. The scripts that someone has in Afghanistan versus the script someone has for the similar situation in the U.S. are going to be very different. It's still the same kind of situation. You're going to a wedding. Let's say it's a wedding, a script for a wedding. But what happens at a wedding in Afghanistan versus what happens at a wedding in the United States are very, very different. So schemas help us to categorize our world. And from these experiences, we develop scripts. And so scripts are a schema for a sequence of events. So those of you who are people of faith, you know what the script is for church. Your students, you know what the script is for class. Dates, making a salad, you know the sequence, you know the expected sequence of events. And we get thrown when our scripts are violated. So in a sense where the event doesn't follow our script, we get a little lost sometimes. We have to try to catch up. Okay. So that was a very brief look at schemas. This is where I'm going to end my lectures on cognition. So you still have additional assigned reading. So make sure you do that. And let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.